Hi, and welcome back to Creative Faith with McKenna. In today's video, I am going to be doing a little bit of something different. I am going to share with you my COVID story, meaning how COVID ended up changing my life. And if you're thinking this is going to be all about medical stuff, this has nothing to do with the sickness itself, but rather how having this global pandemic impacted my own personal life. I'll leave it at that until I get into the story more. So for me, it was second semester of grade 9. It was 6 weeks in. We were just getting to know the classes and everything, and then COVID happened. Everyone thought it would be like an extended March break, and then it ended up being a whole lot longer than that. So with this, school kind of went on the back burner. Everyone was at home. The school system didn't know what they wanted school to be like in that first semester. In those first few months of COVID, school kind of went on the back burner for me, meaning that wasn't my top priority. Like, I had a lot of other time for other things other than school, because school didn't know what they wanted to do, what they wanted the students to do. So I was stuck at home like everybody else, and what else was I going to do but discover a hobby, start a hobby, get something to fill my time with, and that's what I did. This is when I started rock painting. March 2020, the rock painting started. I joined Facebook groups, I connected with fellow rock painters all over the world, some of which I am still close friends with today on Facebook. I explored the big world of rock painting. It's a lot bigger than you might think. I had no idea like this was a huge thing that people did. This was the new hobby. This was what I did from March, April, May, June, July, August, September, like for months in the first few months of COVID. I played around with a whole bunch of different style of painted rocks. I played around with those dotted rocks, just dot paints, and it's like dotted mandalas, or I did ones with words and then dots all around them. I tried my hand at paint pour rocks, though I used a ton of paint, didn't really know what I was doing. They cracked, but I still have pictures, and it's the process. One of my favorite rock themes was quote rocks, the rocks with phrases on them. Most of the time I had like a base layer, and then I did another like circle outline of the rock, and then that's in a different color, and then that's what had the phrase on it. They were just like cute phrase rocks. I really liked making those rocks. I painted paper rocks, and you'll see what I mean in these pictures, because they are painted black and then painted like a smaller outline of the rock painted white, and then you use paint pens to draw the lines of what would look like lined paper, and then you write whatever you want on what looks like the paper. These were some of my favorite rocks that I created, because you could put whatever you wanted to on it, and it kind of had that nostalgia look of reality of like what paper looks like, but on a rock. Then I even experimented with faceless Disney princess rocks and some superhero rocks too. These are some of my favorites because it was hard for me to draw the princesses. Faces are not my thing, so I kind of worked around that and made them faceless. It was cool to see how well I could do, and that I could make duplicates, could do the same princess on another rock, so it kind of built up my skill. There were even some strawberries and candy corn rocks that I did. I also did cupcakes, painted cupcakes on rocks, which was a fun one of mine. Then I moved on to the world of mixing painted rocks with temporary tattoos. And that actually worked out really well. A lot of butterfly rocks came from that. I got a lot of temporary tattoos from Amazon, and literally like it worked really well to get like a really nice looking rock. The funny thing is that to paint what the temporary tattoo would have been really hard on a rock. Made me look like I was a great painter, but it was just a temporary tattoo. At one point, I was even putting out rocks on the sidewalk outside my house for my community to take, because this was a very unsettling time, and I wanted people to be able to take some comfort that there is still kindness in the world, especially because COVID was all the news was talking about. I really just wanted to make a difference, brighten somebody's day, and my community just started to know me as the rock girl. So this ended up being like a huge hit. Like, people of all ages enjoyed them. There were old ladies that would tell me that they loved them, and then there was a mom and her daughter took a little ladybug rock and she like carries around everywhere. It's just kind of cute that the impact of my painted rocks on the sidewalk reached like people of all ages. This kind of stopped a little bit after Halloween because it's hard to maintain putting rocks out on the street, especially when people really like them and take them. So I stopped it after Halloween, in which like I put a bunch of Halloween themed rocks out, and then that was it. Obviously winter was coming around, so it wouldn't be suitable for rocks to be out on the sidewalk because of the snow and the weather conditions. So that was October, but let's backtrack a little bit to the beginning of September. So at the beginning of September of 2020, I was inspired by a woman that I saw created digital art to share the glory of God and just the good news with others on Instagram, and I was inspired by her to kind of see what I could do with digital art. So the first thing I did was I bought Procreate. I started on my phone, which is a tiny screen in comparison to an iPad, so my advice, don't start on a phone. It's so small. I can never go back to a phone now that I have my own iPad. Start with an iPad. It's worth it. So like I said, I started with drawing on my phone with the app Procreate for Procreate Pocket. It's for the phone. And I started to dabble around with my dad's iPad. And the reason I switched to my dad's iPad was because it had an Apple Pencil, so I got to play around with pressure sensitivity. With calligraphy, you have the thick strokes and the thin strokes. And with the Apple Pencil, the pressure sensitivity, you press harder for the thick strokes and lighter for the thinner strokes. I got to play around with the Apple Pencil, which made it a lot easier. I started my Instagram account as a way to track my progress, and I'm actually so glad I did, because now it's July 2023. I still have posts back from September 6th was my first Instagram post, and my style has completely changed, and the progress I have made is insane. Then we kind of fast forward to about late August of 2021, at which point I wanted to buy my own iPad. I had a good paying job and I wanted to buy my own iPad and my own Apple Pencil, and that's what I did. And I wanted to do it before school started so that I could use a note-taking app on my iPad and get used to that and use it for school. Well, it's an iPad. I wasn't going to just use it for drawing. Also, side tip, we bought my iPad. It's an iPad Air 4th generation with a 2nd generation Apple Pencil. We bought it from like Apple, the website, so brand new. What I want to say about that is that pay the extra money for an extra year of Apple Care, because if you're like me in high school, things can be broken, things can be dropped. You want to be able to get a new one with like a small amount of money that you have to pay. It's worth it. So instead of getting 1 year of Apple Care, we bought 2, and that's about to expire soon for me. I think it was definitely worth it, because going into high school, grade 10 or 11, it was, it's high school, people break things, so it's good to have that on hand. 2022 goes by, and now I am at July 2023. To wrap up this video, I want to leave you with the moral of the story. My COVID story included a lot of rock painting, which actually really improved my artistic skill. Traditional skill, as well as just like drawing techniques. The moral of the story is that without the extra time that COVID gave me, as hard as those few years were for everybody around the world, I am grateful, because it gave me the time I needed to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. Now I've graduated from high school and I know what I want to do, and I feel like without that extra time to develop my skill with the rock painting, with the digital art, I wouldn't be where I am today. Art to me was, you had to be a Picasso or a Bob Ross to actually make a living out of being an artist. And now I am going into graphic design, computer art, digital art, whatever you want to call it. I can make a living out of doing what I love. So this is the moral of the story. COVID wasn't just a bad thing. It was something I needed to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I hope you enjoyed this little story time. I don't tell a lot of stories on my channel. I want to, because it is in my intro. It does include stories, so I'd like to do more of these videos. This was a story I wanted to tell because of where I am. I'm starting college in September, and I wouldn't be where I am today without the COVID season that was. Let me know what your COVID story was like in the comments below, because I'd love to hear from you if we have anything in common, if you love art. I always love making new friends that love art. Tell me what your plans are for college, or where you are in your schooling, where you are in life, who you are, in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Bye!